uploaded to the IEBC portal. So we're having a conversation here in studio with Felix Owuor. He's an election expert, and Alex Gatundu as well on the repeat presidential poll that happened today. So far, we do know from the IEBC chair, Wafula Chebukati, that he has postponed the election in 4 counties: Kisumu, Migori, Homa Bay, and Siaya. Could we take a look at what happened in Migori just earlier on during the day?
Baba yao. Uhuru mamako. Uhuru, wewe si rais wetu. Uhuru rais wetu Uhuru the governor. The president. Semeni wanaweka tunatoa. Wewe? Auongei. Semeni mnaweka mkitoa. Zoom kwa hii moja hii. Hii moja ndio hatari sana. Hii ndio mbaya sana inaongea sio moja. Tunaweka lakini tunatoa. Sema tutaweka na tutatoa. Weka na tutatoa. Yes. Kwa sauti wewe. Tutaweka na tutatoa. Mikono juu, mikono juu. Mikono juu. Sema. Tunaweka na tutatoa. Sema wewe huyu wa mwisho hapo wewe. Sema mnaweka na tutatoa. Yes, very good. Rudia wote. Weka simu yako vizuri, usiseme uliporwa simu na afande. Sema tunataka simu yako. Ukitoka kamera mwache hiyo kazi. Hiyo kazi inafanya ni mbaya. Kwa hiyo kazi mseme mtaacha. Wewe. Sisi tunachoka kutoa. Hamsemi? Wewe ndio sema mimi ndio kaidi mkubwa. Mimi ndio kaidi mkubwa. Mimi ndio kaidi mkubwa. Sitarudia. Sema ongea kwa nguvu, ongea wakisikia. Kaidi mkubwa sitarudia. Mtu ako na ajili ukipiga tu ukiacha no distance hivi. Hata sisi tuliacha wanawake na vijiji kama tutapata. Songa hapa. Songa hapa hapo uendelee kutoa mawe. Audio Max. Audio Max. Wewe. Audio Max. Audio Max what iko chini. What iko chini. Wewe ndio uko ready. Unainua hoti juu. Wewe wanaume, mimi nataka tushike moja. Watu wasikize hapa. Get set. Go. Twende sasa. Twende sasa. Rudi. Twende. Twende rudi.
Okay, so that is part of what happened today in Migori. Some youth there who were arrested by the police. So like I mentioned, we are focusing on the repeat presidential poll. We have a team at the Bomas of Kenya that's keeping an eye on the results even as they stream in. Here in studio, we have Felix Owuor, election expert, and Alex Gatundu, who's a lawyer, but also a political mind in his own right. So, Felix, just before we took that break, Alex asked something, and I think it's a question that probably lots of Kenyans out there would also want an answer to. So, is there anything in conducting this particular election that IEBC has not or did not comply with that would compromise the credibility of this election?
Yeah. Let me answer it, and I hope my friend Alex here is going to give me time to explain to him.
I am moderating, so I'll give you the time.
And to respect that I've actually really studied the Constitution and as it relates to elections. Now, the Supreme Court made a judgment that the election was not held in strict conformity with the Constitution and the election laws. And I've heard the people, and I want to, first of all, address the issue of personnel and IEBC, the individuals from the Commission who are in charge with the elections. Contrary to what people think, that the Supreme Court did not specifically indict anybody. I think it was in Thailand, where the Supreme Court made almost a similar finding. And what happened, what followed, therefore, was a process and the commission, the leadership of the commission, to take responsibility on who may have caused the illegalities and the irregularities. The way the commission is organized, it works this way. There is the commissioners, and then there is the secretariat. And the secretariat are organized in departments called directorates. Now, when the Supreme Court made a finding that the election was not organized in accordance with the Constitution, and that illegalities and irregularities were committed in results transmission, it's an indictment first and foremost to the person who the buck stops with, and that is the CEO of the commission, first and foremost. Secondly, it indicts the Directorate of Elections, those who appoint, and that is where all the returning officers and the presiding officers and clerks fall under. There were places, including in Jubilee strongholds, where the returning officers and the presiding officers never appended their signatures. The buck stops with... just a minute.
Alex, please,
The buck stops with the director of elections and operations. Now, illegalities is a legal issue. IEBC has a Directorate of Legal Services. Thank God, Praxedis Torore, because the illegalities were committed, she made a decision, and I think a right decision, to step down and take an early retirement. But most fundamentally, there was serious indictment on the technology that was used in election. There is a department of ICT, technology. Results transmission falls under this department and this technology. So it ought to have indicted them. But also, the buck stops also with the chair of the commission, to the extent that he made an announcement on a fake Form 34C. Form 34C, the buck stops with him. But I would go on and also talk about the body language of IEBC since the elections were held. Now, after that judgment, the chairperson of the commission began to do what he thought was a proper interpretation of the judgment and make administrative personnel changes. What happened? By his own admission and confession, he was completely unable to do that. Secondly, in the Supreme Court, there was evidence that the statutory forms that were used to declare results, most of them were fake, in one way or the other. We paid so much money to Al Ghurair to print not only the ballot papers, but the statutory forms.
Okay.
When this issue was canvassed in the Supreme Court, and thereafter, Al Ghurair never came and said, wait a minute, these are not the forms that we printed. If the affidavit of Immaculate Kasait that was deposited in the Supreme Court confirmed that all the forms and the documents that were used by IEBC are the security features. Either Al Ghurair, if Al Ghurair printed this document or did not print them, they were in a breach of contract.
Okay.
And therefore, it beats logic why you would proceed to contract Al Ghurair to print subsequent ballot papers.
Okay.
Finally, Otimofo. There was massive problems with results transmission, including unauthorized access, etc. There was no evidence, to my knowledge, that Otimofo came and defended themselves. They never did that.
They did an internal
Now,
audit.
you can, when an issue has been raised with of that magnitude and a finding of the Supreme Court has been made on the basis of results transmission, the company that provided and procured that technology was in breach of contract. You cannot proceed to contract that company.
Okay, so just by contracting both Al Ghurair and
these were some of the irreducible minimums, the personnel, the technology, and the ballot papers.
Alex,
there were 11.
You can see he is struggling so much.
How was it?
I wasn't struggling.
No, you are struggling so much to answer my question because my question has not been answered. My question was very simple. What has IEBC not done in compliance with the edict of law, the Constitution, and the judgment of the Supreme Court. He has not done that. He has not done
exactly what I
now,
responded to.
Now, I'll tell you something.
Yes.
When it comes to, for example, KIMS, they were reconfigured. What NASA was complaining about, they were asking, what are these results that we are seeing on the screen? And IEBC was saying, these are statistics. They are not results. And they were right. Technically and legally, they were right. They were not results because in law, the results are founded. They are based on the forms 34A and 34B. That is the law. Now, what has IEBC done? I want now to deconstruct what he is saying. The IEBC, towards compliance with the judgment, the legal edits and the constitutional edits, reconfigured the KIMS to remove the aspect of the messaging. So even today, there are no messages that are being sent. There are no messages of results that are being sent to the National Tallying Center. What they were told, you can only bring to us results transmitted from the forms. And then the physical transmission, that is, you bring to us the forms themselves physically. So they have that tier, which was bringing the problems. That is the results that were being uploaded into the server from through the SMS has been removed. That is why Kenyans are not seeing results. You can see Kenyans are not seeing results on the screen the way we were seeing the last time. So that was in compliance with the complaint that NASA made. The second aspect, you're talking about personnel. Chebukati, the Shiroba is out. The CEO is out. Can I finish?
Just finish.
If you don't mind.
Okay.
Shiroba is out. One would have expected that he was the main problem to NASA throughout their campaigns. They used to say, this guy must go, must go. Eventually, he has gone. He has gone out. Yet, they're still saying, no. Even if he has gone, the staff that are him are still... Now they have this another issue. So what I'm saying is this. NASA, I remember Chief Kati said, 10 out of 12 conditions that you put to us, we have fulfilled. Then, subsequent to that, the IBC was able even to conform to the 11th. That is the 11th condition. That is, the CEO was able to vacate temporarily for this period.
Oh, temporarily.
Yes, temporarily for this period. Okay. So that they did not have an excuse for this particular election cycle. That is the so-called rerun. So for me, you can see, these people have no excuse whatsoever. They are trying so hard to justify why they are not participating in this election because the IEBC went back. Even the courts of law, including the Court of Appeal, the High Court, even the Supreme Court, they entertained them in more than 20 suits. 20 suits is unprecedented in the history of elections in Kenya. More than 20 suits, all against IEBC from different parties. And my question is, when will these guys ever get satisfied? It's because they want to nusumkate. It is not that they want to get nusumkate.
Alex, so direct question. The irreducible minimums and the demands that NASA were making with respect to IEBC, all of them were met?
99% of them were met. Let me finish.
True.
I think the question was addressed to me.
Alex?
Like, you know, in marriage, I have seen this elsewhere. In marriage, and you are in marriage, like that I am, even to get 50% concession from your spouse, whether that spouse is husband or wife, trust me, leader, that's a big deal. For you to get 99% concession in such an arrangement of austerity, within such a short time, within you're supposed to comply, trust me, IBC tried. They were able to comply with 11 out of 12. The 11th one being exit of the CEO. And they are not content. What does that tell you? They were not after the compliance of the 12 conditions. They were after nusumkate.
Alex, listen. So they were able to comply with 11 out of 12.
Yes.
NASA was uncomfortable with Al Gore. Is
Yes.
IEBC still working with Al Gore or not?
You see, Al Gore...
Yes or no, Alex?
No.
Alex.
You see,
Alex.
the problem... Can I answer that question?
No, I just want a yes or a no.
No.
Then, because you've said 11 out of 12.
Yes. You see, Al Gore was within those 12. I didn't remember, they are not saying Al Gore as such. What they are saying is that these issues pertaining to these forms, this issue pertaining to transmission, and transmission was by the French company.
Okay.
Yeah, you see, and the French company was able to reconfigure the chems. Yes, they were able to.
You've given him too much airtime. In fact, 3 times more than me.
No,
if you
but
hear somebody struggle like he does,
yeah.
and hear him draw analogies of marriage like PLO in the Supreme Court.
Leader, was my question answered? Was my question
I will
answered?
wait for you to stop him and then you give me time.
Alex, could you please allow Felix to just go on?
I answered this question very, very, very satisfactorily.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that Jubilee is stuck with the so-called Nosumkate. And thank God, after this election, nobody should talk about it. The numbers have been deflated.
Okay,
There is no so-called tyranny of numbers. It's not there. It's a fallacy. It doesn't exist. It's non-existent.
What about the parliament?
Let me... And Linda,
what about parliament?
Just a minute, I want to answer you. we will probably be on, and I'll call him.
What about parliament?
I'll call him.
No, what about parliament? How comes you have to know your numbers with parliament?
I want to answer you.
No,
I want to answer you.
Alex, can you let him answer?
Just be quiet.
Yes.
He's promised to buy Mbuzi.
I will.
Yeah.
But answer the question.
On that Mbuzi, we will be eating it to celebrate a point that I'm about to make.
Okay.
Out of the 300 plus petitions that are scattered across the various courts, they are going to be nullified, and the Jubilee will lose those numbers. I can promise you that. Because they were based on the same operating influence of elections. And if we are involved in a few petitions. If you see how scared people are in some of those petitions in court, in Malindi, in Mombasa, and in Homa Bay.
Those are NASA.
I can promise
those
you,
are NASA rules.
the so-called algorithm or whatever it's called, that resulted into 54%, that is also 54% in about 10 gubernatorial seats, will invalidate those elections. But let me say this on a serious note.
Was Orengo elected?
Let me say this on a very serious note.
Okay.
What we need in this country,
as we wrap up,
and I said it last time, that it has taken us so long to have the 2010 constitution that we have. People lost lives. People were displaced. There are people who died. There are people who went on detention and things like that. And this document has been hailed not just in this country, but also in this continent and in the entire world as probably one of the most progressive and transformative. We have to leave the culture of this constitution. And one of the reasons why it is that transformative is because it gives elaborate chapters on elections and representation of the people, and it goes further. It actually entrenches political rights as part of the Bill of Rights. We need an election that is credible, that is verifiable, that is free and fair, and the circumstances as admitted and the political environment that is prevailing, that was prevailing last week and is prevailing now, was not conducive for us to hold that election. I was here on KTN last time, and I said that this country needed to discuss this. And I said there's something that President Uhuru Kenyatta has and Raila Odinga that none of us have, not Deputy President William Ruto, not Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka and things like that. These are the sons of the founding father of this nation. I'm telling you, after this election, this country, we are worse off as a country than we've ever been in our history.
Why?
Because we have never been this polarized. We have never been this divided. We have never been in a situation where you can't hold even a civil debate. Look at as evidence even for this.
Okay, so from where you sit and having observed a lot of elections in the region, what would be the best way forward for Kenya?
Let me tell you, if South Africa holds an election today, it's a national celebration. People celebrate. People dance in the streets. Somebody told me that it's because they got their independence in early 1990s. Far from it. Elections should not make us as divisive as possible. The problem, though, is as we move forward. Because we never dealt with the fundamental issues that we needed to have dealt with before these elections were held, My fear is that it will take us so much energy and so much effort to solve things that we ought to have solved a few weeks ago. And yes, IEBC failed to provide leadership, and Chebukati, I think, will go down in history. So, somebody who had a second chance in life, and by the way, they rarely came by second chances, but he ended up messing it up.
Felix, direct question. You've had a repeat election. You had the candidates were given time to go and campaign, and you have the IEBC overseeing this process, which you've said is symbolic and carried out by an institution that probably shouldn't have been doing this. But then, granted, the election has already been done today. Why can't the country just move on?
Yeah,
direct question.
Because we've been in this place before. In 2007, we were in our situation. And we thought that when we negotiated a political settlement and then came up with the so-called Agenda 4 items and passed the new constitution, we thought that we had reached. The weakest link in our democracy or democratic consolidation is election and election management. It is surprising that 53 years down the road, 27 years since we reverted back to multi-party politics, and 7 years since we had a new constitution, we must discuss election IEBC. In every election, we must discuss election reform. Remember, the 11th Parliament amended the laws literally up to the last minute. I'm telling you, the weakest link is election and election management. If we were to say that now let's accept and move on, we were in this situation in 2013. I hold the view that if we can fix our election and election management, then we shall have made substantial leaps. Because look at our judiciary, one of the best in the continent.
Alex, I'm going to let you have the final word, don't worry.
If we are to fix our elections and election management, that elections in this country becomes a celebration that the winners and the losers embrace. But one of the tests for a good election is acceptability of results. In this repeat election alone, even those who participated, I have so many friends in Rift Valley, in Central, in Meru, etc. There's like, look, it didn't have to be like this, but we have had an election anyway, so maybe, but it didn't have to be like this. Those who did not, first of all, a substantial number of counties did not participate. A substantial number of constituencies and the people in this country did not participate. I would estimate that potentially over 60% did not participate. Now, an election cannot be this divisive.
I need to take a break. Alex,
yes.
Can I give Alex a minute?
Yes.
Okay, Alex, you get the final word here.
For me, the greatest comfort that I have with what is happening right now, Linda, is this. Akobe, despite resigning and running away to US, stated in US that the results of 8th of August 2017 presidential reflected the will of the voters. It is on the YouTube. You can go and listen to it. Listen to it. So it is. The only problem, and including even the Supreme Court, they said, I remember the Deputy Chief Justice said, it does not matter whether Uhuru won. It is how he won that matters. You see, so the issue is not the numbers. The issue is how. And for me, that is gratifying, because the how has been sorted out. If only as an excuse to run away from an excuse. That being an excuse and it has been sorted out, we should not even be debating the issue of whether one should participate in an election or not. Those issues have been sorted out. Let us just admit, and I'm telling you, my friend, let us just admit, we want a space in the government of the Republic of Kenya.
Okay, so
but we cannot get that space through the ballot. No, you admit that we want a space in the government of Kenya.
Why
but
are you
we
asking
cannot.
No,
Nasa.
Because it's posed a question to me, I'll have to respond in his 1 minute.
We want a space in the government of Kenya, but we cannot get it through the ballot. Please, can we negotiate? And you know what? Wajiko has said no. Number one has said no. Number two has said no. Once that has happened, you know what? Even when you are dating a lady, if she says no, and she says another no, and she says that no, please respect that no.
So in other words, the country should just move on.
No, 1 second.
No. Democracy must be respected.
1 second. Wanjiku said no. I want to say for the record, and looking at your screens, that this repeat election has confirmed the voting patterns in 1992 and 97, that two communities in this country can never win the presidency. Luos and Kikuyus voted against President Moi, but they both lost and President Moi won. We need an inclusive government. And I can tell you for the record, I can tell you for the record, I don't think Nusumkate is what. It's a bigger problem than Alex can comprehend. Thank you very much.
Alex, hey, you can't just walk off myself like that.
That's
Okay,
bad manners.
Alex,
No, it's bad
30
manners.
seconds, Alex, so that you don't say I'm being unfair to you. 30 seconds, you need to wrap up.
No, for us, the most important thing is that we have one country, and we all have one home called Kenya. We cannot run away from it. Maybe there are other people who are fortunate enough to own homes out of the country. Some of us may not necessarily have homes out of the country. So we must preach peace. We have elections. If you did not participate in these elections, please respect what others did, like I. We voted, and we voted whoever we voted for. So what matters is let us respect each other's choice today. Choice of voting and the choice of not voting. Thank you.
That would be a good place to leave it.
I didn't vote, by the way.
Sorry?
I didn't vote, for the record.
All right, that would be a good place to leave it. Alex and Felix, thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time this evening. And we've been together for like 2 hours, I think. And thank you so much for sharing your sentiments on the repeat presidential.